Hello there guys, this is Christaaaay from Dostoevsky in Space. Today I'm going to be telling you about books that I recently read that were so relaxing. It'll be perfect for the insomniacs out there, or the Enneagram 9s, or the Hufflepuffs, people who just want some gentle books that will hold their attention and help you get to sleep at night. So let's jump into it, shall we? First we have Hat Atelier, which is the first book in a manga series by Kamome Shirahama, and it gives me such Harry Potter vibes, which might be why it's so relaxing for me. I've been also reading the Harry Potter illustrated books. They're just so relaxing and wonderful. But this is the story of a young girl who works in a fabric shop where she also learns to sew and embroider and all kinds of fabric-y things. And one day, some rich ladies come to the shop in kind of like an air cab that's pulled by unicorns. Their cab gets broken, and so luckily there's a witch in town. The protagonist of this book is so excited because she's always seen magic around her and been so amazed by it and wished that she could be a witch. But she knows that witches are born and not made. You can't become a witch if you're not born a witch. And that's what she's always been told. So when a witch comes to town and helps fix this carriage, she's just so excited, and she ends up eavesdropping on the witch as he fixes the magic in the carriage, and she realizes that it's actually a drawing magic. So you draw like these diagrams in order to create magic spells. And so she ends up trying it, and some dangerous magic ensues, and she ends up learning that anybody could really do magic if they just study hard enough. You don't have to be born a witch. It's really kind of about her growth as a person and as a witch, and the end is a bit of a cliffhanger, so you might want to have book 2 on hand, but it's just so gentle and really just a lovely story. And the illustrations are just so cute. Like, this cover is a really good example of the illustrations inside, although they're not color, but they're very clearly done. I think it would be great for kids because it's very easy to follow. It's like kind of slow rather than really fast action-y manga. So this was a recommendation from Kate Howard. I'm so glad she recommended it. I can't wait to start volume 2. Next, we have the biblical book of Ruth, which is such a book for Hufflepuffs. Some books of the Bible are a little more heavy and disturbing, and you have to kind of dig into them, or they're like very symbolic. But the book of Ruth is just a really sweet, short kind of story. It's got like 4 chapters in it, and it's about a woman who her husband dies, and she's very close to her mother-in-law Naomi. And so when Naomi's husband also dies, Ruth decides she's going to stick with Naomi and go with Naomi back to Israel, which is Naomi's original homeland, even though it's not Ruth's homeland. And Naomi tries to convince her to go back to her family, but Ruth is like, no, I'm sticking to you. So she sticks with her mother-in-law and goes to Israel, a land where she doesn't know anybody or anything, and really takes care of her mother-in-law. And it ends up being kind of a love story, and it's just very, very sweet, and it's like a very rural setting. It's not political at all. It's just a really lovely story, so I highly recommend that. Honestly, one of my favorites. It's just a beautiful little book. Next, Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. This wasn't exactly like a recent read, but this is such a sweet story about a girl named Molly Gibson who's growing up with her doctor father kind of in the countryside, like a very rural part of England. And this is a Victorian period book, and it's very long. So if you really like it, you can read it for a very long time and enjoy it. And you stay very close to Molly, and she's kind of like a very sweet person, very kind. She's not like an eye-catching personality. She's more of a quieter kind of person, but very strong in her beliefs and her morals. And so her father decides he needs to marry a woman so that his daughter has a role model. So she goes to stay with the neighbors for a while and gets like very close with the lady of the house. And eventually her husband and her sons aren't around, but later she gets to know them as well. And she just becomes such a wonderful, close-knit friend to this family. And then when she comes back home, she finds out that her father has married probably the worst woman that he could think of to marry for Molly. And so it's really about her life with her new stepmom and the new stepsister who comes along with the stepmom and the neighbors. And it just follows all these characters. And it's very rich in characterization. It's gentle and sweet in the way that Elizabeth Gaskell does, where, you know, people are very flawed. They have very flawed characteristics that can make life very difficult for the ones that they love, but you still love them and they're very sympathetic. and their personalities just come through so strongly, and it's really very nice. It's a nice place to live for however long it takes you to read the book. Highly recommend this one for gentle readers. Next, we have The Pursuit of Love by Nancy Mitford. This is a book about some gentle folk around turn of the century England. So pre-World War I is when the events are taking place in this book, and I think it was even published pre-World War I as well. It's technically a novel, but it basically is a memoir of the writer and her cousin who grow up as young girls living very romantically, really wanting to be in love, and one of them never grows out of that very romantic phase. Her love life as they grow into adults is really wild, not exactly sane all the time, but the cousin who's writing has just a really wonderful, funny writing voice, and she clearly loves and adores her cousin, and so she really follows her cousin with loving eyes throughout this crazy, love-maddened world that she lives in. So I just want to say that at the very, very end, some sadness comes in. So if you're getting near the end of the book and you think you're about to finish it, maybe wait till the next morning to finish it so that you don't get upset right before bed, But in general, it's just really engaging and funny, and you'll just laugh your way through it. The picture of politics of the period is really only in there in order to show off different personality character traits, but it's really funny how the romantic cousin who's looking for love, she's not a very serious personality, and so her reaction to politics is funny, her father's reaction to politics is funny. This sort of noble family is very out of touch with the modern world. So it's just really funny to see how they exist, this cast of characters together in the modern world. Next, we have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, and this is a very thick, super thick alternate history / historical fantasy. It's an equal mix of the two. So it's set in the Napoleonic period when Napoleon is rampaging around and England is trying to figure out what to do with him. Basically what happens is two wizards single-handedly bring magic back to England, and it's very slow, but if you're enjoying the style and you're enjoying the characters and the kind of humor, it just has a certain kind of wit about it that you either really enjoy or you might think is really boring. So just give it a try. For me, I couldn't finish it on physically reading it, but it was wonderful on audiobook, and I'm re-listening to it right now at bedtime. Every night before bed, I put it on and I put on my sleep timer and I fall asleep a couple minutes later. And so I'm just slowly going through it, and it's just so wonderful. I always look forward to it every night. So the year is 1806, and these two magicians, like I said, are reviving the use of magic in England after centuries of theoretical magicians just basically writing books about magic in the past. So no one has used magic in hundreds of years. And it's really about the impact they make on England, on the war with Napoleon and the kind of sacrifices they make in their personal lives for the use of magic. And it's very Dickensian in style to me. It's Dickens plus magic is how I described it to another friend. So I would say this is perfect for relaxation, with the caveat of one storyline is a little bit stressful, and it may stress you out, it may not stress you out. The first time I read it, it kind of stressed me out a little bit, but since this is a reread, I'm totally fine. One character makes a kind of Faustian bargain. That was the stressful plotline for me. And finally, we have I Married Adventure by Osa Johnson, which is also a book that I just recently finished. This is a memoir about the husband and wife team, Osa and Martin Johnson from America, who in kind of also turn of the century. I've been reading a lot of older books. I guess they're just relaxing and fun for me. This was a Discord read that Emma the Bookish Princess is doing in her Bookish Kingdom Discord. So if you want to join that, definitely I will have her linked down below and you can check out her Discord. Just check out her community posts page and she'll have the information about how you can join. You just need to email her and she'll send you the Zoom link. Really great book. So this husband and wife pair, they went all over the world, and they went on safaris, and they went to all these places that people had never been with cameras before, and they went with some really bulky equipment. They took some really beautiful footage footage of like watering holes with elephants, and they just documented a lot of things that hadn't been documented before, and it's very interesting and engaging. Osa's humor really is what made it so unique and fun. She's a really great writer. She's very upbeat. She doesn't dwell on the sad things, even though sad things happen. There are animals who die, for example, in this book, but she doesn't dwell on really sad things. She really just dwells on the adventurous parts. Some of the most interesting stuff actually for me was what her husband did before they even knew each other. She kind of profiles his early life as an adventurer, and I think this is a book very much dedicated to him in love. So again, this is one that it made me cry at the very end. It's kind of sad, but I would say you're probably fine throughout this book until you reach the very end. So try and finish it in the morning. Don't finish it at night right before bed. But Osa is just very interesting as well. She was like the homemaker and caretaker for her husband, because being on a safari and being all over the world and living on canned food made him really sick. And so she always was doing her best to like cook really nutritious meals for both of them and make themselves a home out in the jungle. And she also had some skill with firearms, because anytime he was in danger when he was filming out in the wild, she would have her gun at the ready to protect him, because they didn't really have a lot of means of protection, I'm guessing, at this period. Osa was the strong woman. She was the protector, which is just so interesting and cool. So this is really about celebrating their victories, and it's really just a charming book that I highly recommend for people who are insomniacs or just want something relaxing. Anyways, that is the last book. I hope that you guys pick up one of these books. Let me know if you do, or if you have any recommendations for books that are very relaxing and more for gentle-souled readers. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.